So where you
Welcome back to Exceptional Talk with Dr. Clark. This is part 2 with Mr. George Folks. All right. You end up on the last session talking about the 4 very, very important people.
right?
So we're going to pick up there so
Okay.
that you can share the plan
Okay.
again of changing how you feel that it can definitely make a difference in the community.
Okay. So once you have those 4 people in the room, um, then you're able to do some real serious work. One of the brilliant lessons that I got from one of my elders was you only need as many people on your team that can fit in a car. 2 in the front, 3 in the back, including you.
Okay.
Basically, don't roll over 5.
Okay.
Because if you got your team and y'all need to get away, then there's a seat for each one of y'all when you jump in the car. So stick to a team of just 5 people. Um, that core team that's going to take on each one of these individual missions are going to work together based on the larger, bigger picture for the Black family. So these 5 people are sitting around a table where they're going to decide how every table in the Black community could potentially use this wisdom and this intellect to their advantage. When you combine intellect with wisdom, you got a mean combination. Every now and then you will see them hire a coach who doesn't have experience and wisdom, but is talented. And John Madden, the big John Madden that passed away in the NFL, was an example of that. He won the Super Bowl in his first season, but he had a special understanding of football where after a while, when he became the announcer, John Madden, he could explain the game like nobody else.
Right.
But he was the same kind of coach where he could explain it. You don't often give people who don't have wisdom and experience an opportunity, but sometimes experienced people say, I'm going to pick this rookie, this person that has never been tested. I'm going to give them the shot. You follow me? And often those people do very well because you're entrusting them. So these people in the car, these 4 people plus one other person that you bring to the table are the core to taking on the challenges that are being maintained and sustained by racism and people who believe you belong in the basement. You were once slaves. Why would you want to come up out of the basement? Y'all need to stay in the basement. Somebody got to be in the basement. Why not Black folks? And then there's a serious population of Black people who believe they belong in the basement based on their behavior. Based on their behavior, they belong in the basement.
And did you think that could possibly come from years of
oppression?
Never seeing, and we talked about that lack of hope.
Yes, it comes from
it
comes from the condition of not having been exposed and not valuing character. See, I'm convinced of what I'm about to say to you, and I hope this statement goes worldwide. All Black poor people should never live with trash. You should never allow trash to be in your community or in your sight. You are now made a clear statement that you represent dignity when you don't live with trash. But if you go to every ghetto in America, you will see where trash coexists with Black people.
Because they don't empty the dumpsters.
Right,
they don't have pride.
Right, but the philosophical point that I'm making is if you believe in you and you know that visually you won't find trash at 1600 Pennsylvania, you won't find trash at Buckingham Palace, You won't find trash at the Taj Mahal.
Right.
You
But
won't find trash. You won't find trash where extremely wealthy people live who like their landscape, their surroundings. What does that tell you? It tells you that people that have high self-esteem do not coexist with trash.
it also tells you, I would say, that you don't know your worth.
Of
Because
course,
if you already feel hopeless and then you don't know your worth and who you are, then you, like you say, you're gonna feel that you belong in the basement. But
you you are you
when
are
you
in the basement
mhm,
technically, but
yes,
but you don't have to live with
stay in
trash.
the basement, right?
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
When you don't live with trash, what you're saying is I'm lifting my dignity up.
Hmm.
You have the power to lift your dignity up. But
Yes.
the way we do it in all of the ghettos of America is we stop coexisting with trash. You
Mhm.
just refuse to
Clean it
stop
up.
living with trash. You just say, baby, this is our commitment. We're gonna put on some music and we're gonna get out here and we're gonna
We're gonna
make sure
clean up our
we
neighborhood.
we're gonna keep it clean. See, we're
Yes.
gonna keep it clean.
Yes.
And therefore, what you're saying is you have now begun the process of dignity.
Hmm.
You've raised the bar
Hmm.
because consistently with people in the basement and people who live in impoverished areas, they live with trash.
Hmm.
When I grew up in the South Bronx, I used to say, this ain't cool.
Right. Yeah.
And we did whatever we could do on our block to
Hmm.
keep our block looking okay because we knew that that was important to us.
Right.
So we did what we had to do.
Right.
But in the journey of life, I remember one unique chapter in Fort Myers where I was taking care of my mother. I was working at this place called Quality Life Center. And I came out the building one day in the first week of me working there, and I saw about 300 pieces of trash on the ground. And
Mhm.
after I got home, my mother said to me, "Well, how do you like the opportunity?" I said, "I plan on changing some lives." I said, I plan on touching some young folks.
Mhm.
And so I went to the store and I got about 8 pair of gloves. I got me a belt, like a tool belt.
Mhm.
I got me a bag of peppermints and number 2 pencils. And I used to walk around, pick up 300 pieces of trash by myself. And
Wow.
this little boy walked up to me named Fernando. And he said, "Mr. Folks, can I help you?" I said, "Yeah." So I gave him a pair of gloves. I said, "Don't throw the trash away without me inspecting it." So he came back with the trash in his hand. And I said, "You can throw that away." Then he gave me the gloves. I gave him a pencil and a peppermint. And then people said, "Where'd you get that peppermint from?" He said, "Mr. Folks, I picked up trash." And the next day I had 8 kids picking up trash.
Wow.
And
So tell
then
me, what was the importance of inspecting the trash, though?
um, I needed to verify that you did what I asked you to do. You
Got
know,
you.
as
Okay.
a
You were
teacher, as a
actually.
teach, as a teacher, you don't let children do things without you always being responsible for their actions.
Mhm.
So letting a child go and just put stuff in the trash, you don't know if he really did put the stuff in the trash. But if you
Teaching
inspect
them
the trash,
accountability.
yeah,
Teaching
and
them
then
accountability.
you tell him to use the trash can where I'm standing. So now I've witnessed you put the trash away. You
Yeah.
see, so now I'm a witness to the history, to the facts, and as a result, at the end of the evening, when I would walk out the building around 7 o'clock, there was no trash on the ground. And my theory was, if y'all getting money from white folks to help Quality Life become a better institution, the first thing we need to show them white folks is that we respect our property.
Yes. Yes.
We
You're
respect
absolutely
our
right.
property.
You're absolutely right, because and it's not to. It's just basically to wake people up, because I have driven into areas myself and the dumpsters are running over. And
Right.
I would say to myself, and I'm thinking, why didn't they just empty the trash? But you're right. They feel that they don't have to, because nobody complains about it.
You don't
You
demand
don't
dignity.
demand your respect,
Dignity.
your
Yeah, you
dignity.
don't
You're
demand it.
absolutely
So
right.
when you don't demand it, you don't get it
Nothing happens.
because you got to
Nothing happens.
demand it.
That's
That's how
it.
you come up out of the basement. You
That's
see,
it.
See, because this is a clear reality of habits. If I take you out of the ghetto because you won the lottery and you have a $300 million and you now buy this $50 million house, if you have bad habits, you won't cut the grass.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have trash on your property.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have cars parked any kind of way.
Right.
Because see, you don't know how to say to your other neighbors, I respect the community in which we live in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be classy, not bougie.
Right. Right.
Bougie doesn't matter when you understand what it means to be
Mainly,
classy.
it's just mainly being clean.
You want a
Having,
clean, respectful property.
yes,
You won the lottery, you got $300 million, but you still ignorant because
right.
you haven't learned the words of character.
How to value what you have.
There you go.
Because you're in the ghetto doesn't mean you have to be living among filth. Doesn't mean that you have to live among trash. You can, and everybody don't. And so let me have this disclaimer, because I don't want anybody writing on my page telling me about, what we're saying is that we're going by what we've seen. And everybody doesn't live like that, because I've seen some homes where they're gorgeous, but they just didn't have the funds to move away. But on the flip side of that, we see what we see. And I know I've witnessed trash, falling out of the dumpsters, outside of the dumpsters. But if nobody say anything, there will never be a change. And you're absolutely right. It starts with our dignity. You got to have self-dignity. You got to know your worth. You got to know who you are.
Right. Right.
You don't have to live among trash, like you said.
No. When you institute the 25 words of character into your existence, then what happens is the stanzas change. You see, there's nothing wrong with Motel 6, but Motel 6 is not the top Marriott resort in the world.
Right, but as long as Motel 6 is clean, where you can still go there. Just because it's Motel 6 don't mean that it got to be nasty and the beds are not.
It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. It's dealing with a certain economic level where someone could say, I can't stay there for $300 a night, but I can go over here and stay for $75 a night. But it should be clean. The bathroom should be clean. The linen should be clean. There should be no trash on the ground when you walk down the hallway. So dignity is always a necessity when it comes to human beings. And dignity should never be anything that you compromise on. You don't compromise on dignity.
Yes.
You deserve that as a human being. And this is one of the fundamental problems in us not assessing how we are going to approach the 21st century, so that at the end of the 21st century, whatever we're going to do for the next century is going to take us like a rocket where we got to go. We ain't playing with other folks. Right. See what I'm saying? When it's all said and done, when you look at the giants like Ella Fitzgerald and the dignity that she brought to everything she did in jazz, she raised the bar as a Black woman who wanted to be a dancer, who won at the Apollo and turned out to be one of the most phenomenal, gifted jazz talents we've ever seen, and was always a lady. It was always classy. She always had this dignity about her, and the way that when she got to the mic to perform, her gift was greater than anybody in the room. Even the band members could get off on enjoying her sing. That meant that when she went somewhere, she elevated y'all. When she stepped to the mic.
Basically, let me just, I like to clarify.
Go ahead, do your thing.
What you're saying. We got to change our behavior.
Yes.
We got to change our character.
Yes.
We have to know our worth. We have to have dignity.
No question.
We have to have some kind of moral compass.
Totally.
Because when you stop caring about what is around you, then the community suffers. everybody suffers. Like you say, when the trash is out there, it doesn't put everybody in the same pot. But when when you drive through the neighborhood, what is your mindset? What is
Yeah,
your thoughts?
yeah,
That everybody in there is living the same what way,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that's what they do to people.
Well, they do it to people because the challenge that you have to learn to master is humanity. You have to master humanity. Once you master humanity, anybody that is oppressing you or against you, you are now in a position to fight. They would have to destroy you to keep you from doing what you're doing. But the moment you snatch dignity with character, you are on your way to doing what you need to do in the universe, because now you have made it clear that this temporary condition that you are oppressing me is only temporary,
Right.
because I'm taking my rightful place in humanity. And therefore, that car filled with those 5 people that I indicated have now decided we're going to take on a challenge. That challenge might be, you know what? We need to make sure there are more trees in this community. We need to make sure that the cars that come through this neighborhood are not speeding. Whatever the challenge is, you start small and you get 3 or 4 successes in a row. Once you get 3 successes in a row, now you can start to look at a goal. But then you go for 3 more there, and then you go for 3 more, and you keep going in threes. And each time you have these successes, you're building a resume that we took on challenges and we won.
Let's talk
And
about
you don't even let setbacks on a challenge deter you. You just learn, because a guy said to me one day, "You remind me of that doll with the sand in the bottom." I said, "Why you call me that?" He said, "Because no matter what obstacle or you get knocked down, you get back up and you better. And I've been with you since you were 5 years old. So you get knocked down, and then when you, like that little doll, he goes down, you punch him and he goes down, then he comes right back up."
right,
He said, "That's you. You
right,
just
and
never
and
stay
that's the
down."
mindset of our people need to be that
Of course.
because because you knocked down. Donnie Clerkin had this song, "You Get Back Up or Rise."
Uh-huh. Right.
The song,
Right. Right. No, it's
but
beautiful. And
it
you
is
notice
beautiful.
that song, touched a lot of people.
It touched a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So let's
Yeah.
talk about one of the major issues in our community, and we see it every day. And it is a concern that I don't have any other way to say this but to say this. How do you feel that we can stop our boys and our children from killing each other? Because our young men's gonna be extinct after a while
Well,
at the
one
rate
of
of
the
they're killing each other.
yeah, one of the first things you have to do in assessing that problem is to make sure that you find out, are there any outside forces contributing to allowing this to exist? Once you find out what the outside forces are,
Get to the
then
root.
you have to shut those outside forces down.
Yeah.
And then once you shut those forces down, what you now have to do is begin to create a clear understanding that each individual begins to learn that a life is really valuable. And you have to teach that. And so the way that I would teach it, if I was sitting with President Biden and he asked me, "How did you get from the South Bronx to do all the things that you did and influence as many people as you did when you were growing up?" I would say to President Biden, give me a closed military base, give me 500 boys at first, and then give me another 500. but now I'll have 1,000 boys. And one of the things that we would wind up doing is teaching not only character, but we would wind up teaching why it is important that you understand the value of a life. See, if you take a life, then that means you don't understand the value of a life.
Yeah, yeah.
So the first thing we would do is teach you the value of life. So one of the
And they
things
don't
I would
value
do,
their own life, because once you take a life, your life is going to be taken as well.
yeah,
You may
yeah,
not
well,
die, but you may
but
as well
still,
be dead, because now if somebody else is telling you when to get up, when to eat,
yeah,
when to go
yeah,
outside, so you
right.
now ruined your life.
Right, right. So one of the things, if, I'm just going to use this one example of an exercise. You take the boy, the young boy, and you sit him with his friends in the dark. You put a spotlight on the grandmother, and they sit directly behind the grandmother where they can hear her. And the grandmother tells you the pain that she's experienced. The grandmother is sitting in the spotlight. The boys are sitting in the dark.
Mhm.
And you have several different grown-ups come and tell you of the pain of the loss that they have experienced. The boys in the dark allows them to cry, allows them to have to be in a conscientious state of mind. And what you're doing is you're making them sensitive to humanity. See, when you raise children in a community where they become insensitive, that's our fault,
Yes.
because we have allowed our children as a collective community to become insensitive. And so outside forces have become important because the real grown-ups in our community don't want to have internal black fights. See, black people don't want to publicly fight with each other because they think it's going to look bad to an outside entity. Let me say this to you clearly at 68 years old. I don't give a damn about what an outsider thinks when we got problems internally. Discuss the problems internally, deal with it. If
Yeah.
outside people hear you discussing it, you're not discussing it out of anger or dismay. You're discussing it because you want to get to how we gonna make this better. We don't agree. We
Mhm.
don't agree. We need a community center. We
Mhm.
need a community center where the kids can swim. We need a community center where the kids have focus. We need a community center where we're feeding them snacks. We're giving them the structure that they need.
Well, they're building them. Actually, there's a couple of new community centers. But let me ask you this: we can have community centers everywhere, but what are we doing with them other than basketball? I mean, there needs to be. You just said it yourself. There needs to be. They need to be taught about citizenship. They need to
Well,
be taught about the value of humanity. They need
yeah,
so. Those are the
I'm
things that need to be addressed in the community.
yeah, I'll run down the 6 things that you have to focus on in the 21st century if you're going to cut the mustard and be ready for the 22nd century. First thing you need to do is you need to deal with nationality. You have to understand that as an American, that your nationality is part of the fabric of America, whether it's 13, 14, 15%. But your nationality as a Black American, as an African American, is part of the fabric of the country. That's the first thing. Second thing, the core values traditionally of the Black community and where it's drifted to must be assessed statistically. You must be able to look at the data. How many Black people respect marriage today? How many Black people respect checking your children? How many Black people believe in family vacations, humble vacations? You ain't got to impress nobody, but how much of our core values that we had in the 19th century versus the 21st century versus the 20th century? So where have we shifted to? So the second one is dealing with our core values. The third one is our humanity to the universe. Where do we stand on humanity to other people? How do we see other people? Do we feel like we shouldn't respect Africans who come here because they want to come here and try to act like they're white, but we need to have a humanity for other cultures so that we are able to raise up and be the best human beings we can be, which is why I believe HBCU presidents need to put anthropology on the agenda as a major so that we can study other cultures, so that the graduates that we put out in the world are not just talking about black and white issues. They can now talk about other cultures because they have a degree in anthropology. Let me go to number 4, leadership with morals. The way it is set up right now, the black church is sitting in first position. They need to go to fifth position. Fifth. And what needs to go to first position is mental health. Our mental health counselors, our psychologists, all of our mental health professionals need to be the first voice in the black community.
Got to get the mind
Okay.
right.
Dr. Naeem Akbar is retired, but one of the great minds in America is Dr. Naeem Akbar, no question about it, and understands what we need in terms of us going forward. And even though he's retired, he can talk to us, he can inform us, and then they can go and do what he suggests so that the mental health community takes the first position. Number 5, and I'm gonna say this very clearly because this is dear to my heart: customer service and customer care is something we have to master in America.
Hold that thought. We're about to I want to keep my segment short, as I told you, explain to you. So I want to keep our viewers' attention. So that part, we want to break it back down. So let me go ahead on. We're going to stop here. Guys, look like we got a part 3 here with Mr. Folks, because we have not even scratched the surface. There's a movie that we definitely got to talk about. The first Black employee under the administration of John F. Kennedy. All of this you will hear when we return for part 3. Exceptional Talk with Dr. Clark.